wants, but this is a county that elects Republicans, and I expect it to do the same. Broomfield County actually voted against Jared Polis last time. They'll do it again, I'm fairly confident. And then all the counties to the west that comprise a smaller, about 10% of the district, are still fertile ground to gather votes on. Now, the first part of the question was the money. If we think money is going to be the only answer, then Jared Polis has a definite advantage, and he can match and double and triple and quadruple whatever we can put on the table. But if people are the difference, and that's why I entered it into this race, is people got behind and said, we can make this happen. I suspect that the money is going to become, well, what can you do with the money? You can buy professional handlers. You can buy media time. What can you do with volunteers? You can talk to your neighbors. You can talk to your friends. You can spread the word out. You can make that difference that we're going to have to make, regardless of which one of us wins the primary. We're going to be outgunned when it comes to the finances. We're going to have the ground game that can make the difference and overwhelm with a simple little thing, and that's the truth and the reality of where we're at and where we need to head. We need to pass that word on to our friends, our neighbors, and hold the base together and talk to the unaffiliated voter and give them that vision of what can be.
I think that the 2nd congressional district is really a strange district. It's a very, very diverse district, and we have agricultural parts of this part of the state. We have the ski country and that part. We have 2 major universities. We have Denver suburbs. If you name a kind of community, then you pretty much have it somewhere in the 2nd congressional district. So, looking at this as a whole, first, it is a plurality unaffiliated district. It's about 35% unaffiliated, and that's a really important thing to keep in mind. Boy, it would sure be great if we could get together at Republican breakfasts or Republican events and choose our congressperson. But in point of fact, those 35%, which are more numerous than we are as Republicans, are really going to be the people in this district who end up choosing the congressperson. So we need to make sure that our nominee is one that they'll go for when they face a decision between that person and Jared Polis. One piece of the good news is that those voters are at least fiscal moderates and a fair number of fiscal conservatives in that district. So they should be satisfied, or at least receptive to a Republican limited government message. They are also angry and fed up with what they see in Washington, what they see in Denver with all the conflicts over all sorts of divisive issues. With regard to the money is very important. Anybody who thinks money isn't important is naive. I raised in the first quarter $139,000. Kevin raised $37,000. I expect that I'll continue to have support. I don't expect that more than Jared Polis. It's going to take. What's important is not having more. What's important is having enough to get your message out. That is several $1 million. So make sure you pick a candidate who can assemble those kind of resources.
All right, what are your views on federal involvement in education, and would you introduce legislation to abolish the United States Department of Education?
Here's the deal with the federal Department of Education. Here's how it's working. The federal government taxes money from Colorado and gives it to the Department of Education, which takes like 30% off the top, and then sends the rest back to Colorado together with a whole bunch of rules. I don't think that's a good deal for Colorado. I don't think that's a good deal for anyone in any American part of America. And there is no reason to think that Washington would know better. Congressman Polis got hundreds of press hits over a thing called the Slice Act. dealing with the categorization of pizza as a food. You know, is he right, is he wrong about what the heck kind of food pizza is? It's sort of, compared to the problems that a congressperson should be focused on, that's kind of silly. And who are these people in Washington that think that people in Colorado, people in school districts, or parents cannot figure out whether their kids should be eating pizza or not? We do not need the federal government getting involved in these sort of silly things, and we do not need our congressmen spending their time on these distractions. Yes, I think the Department of Education is wrong on so many levels. It's fiscally wasteful, and it takes away the autonomy of school boards, of states, and of parents about their children's education. So I'll yield the balance of my time.
The question was twofold, if I understood it. Would I introduce legislation, and what do I think the Department of Education, legislation to abolish it?
The federal role in
Yeah.
education.
Yeah, well, let's go back to the Constitution. Where in the Constitution is Congress empowered to get into the affairs of the education, the schools that states and local districts and indeed parents are and should be in charge of? I have battled in that arena for many, many years, really cut my teeth in the public policy discussion world in promoting homeschooling, which is one of those bright spots in education, and it has nothing to do with the federal government. I will support all legislation that pulls the federal government back away from this unconstitutional, inappropriate intrusion into our individual lives. Will I introduce legislation? Well, let me just spend a few seconds on the process in Congress. Running bills is only a teeny part of it, and actually, an individual legislator who comes in and says, "This is what I'm going to do, here's my legislation," is a bit naive as to how the process works. You end up packaging your legislation. Yes, you run these things, but you end up influencing other legislation and packaging it with other bills in order to get it accomplished. I'm not sure if I'd run a bill to repeal the Department of Education, but I'll support every effort, and if the time is appropriate, I certainly will.
Okay. Will you vote to continue the Patriot Act? If yes, do you believe it is government's job to make us safe?
See, I'm up first there, right?
Yes.
I remember when the first Patriot Act was introduced, and I talked with Bob Schaefer, who was then our member of Congress over that, and he voted for it. And he told me, he said that, well, you know, a lot of things I don't like about it, it's kind of like 49% bad and 51% good. And unfortunately, that's one of the problems with the Christmas tree effect of federal legislation. We need a single title rule there so that you can vote up or down on issues rather than have this widespread. I'm not happy with the way the Patriot Act has come in with so much centralized control of many systems that should be local. And yet I do know that we need national security. And so would I support the Patriot Act? Well, I'd look at specifically what that legislation was before I vote yes or no. But I do not like any authorization of the government to walk over our constitutional rights, and that includes due process. That's the biggest problem I have currently with what Congress last passed. Is there actual due process allowed for the citizen? And you know, there are just far too many areas where the Patriot Act is crossing that line.
When Congress writes a long bill with lots of provisions, you know there's a lot of bad stuff in it, because if there were not a lot of bad stuff in it, if there are all good ideas, they'd make it lots of little bills so we could take credit.